Rosewood was a quiet town, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. It had small houses with flower gardens, a park full of tall trees, and one big school where all the children studied. Nothing exciting ever happened in Rosewood. But one summer morning, everything changed. A moving truck arrived on Maple Street. The old blue house that had been empty for months now had new owners. People in the neighborhood peeked through their windows, curious about the new family. The family had a son named Daniel Carter. Daniel was 17 years old. He was tall, with brown hair and kind eyes. He always carried a guitar on his back, which made people wonder if he was a musician. Daniel's family had moved from the city, and Rosewood was very different for him. On his first day at school, Daniel sat quietly at the back of the classroom. He watched the other students laughing, talking, and sharing stories. Daniel felt like he didn't belong. That's when he noticed Emma Green. Emma was sitting 2 rows ahead, near the window. She had brown hair tied in a ponytail and bright green eyes. Emma loved reading and always had a book in her bag. Daniel saw her smile at her friends, and for a moment, he forgot about feeling lonely. When the teacher introduced Daniel to the class, Emma looked at him and smiled politely. "Welcome to Rosewood High," she said softly. Daniel smiled back, but didn't say anything. During lunch, Daniel sat alone under a tree in the schoolyard. He took out his guitar and started playing a soft tune. Some students looked his way, curious about the music, but they didn't approach him. Emma walked by and stopped. She listened to the music for a moment. "That's really nice," she said. Daniel looked up, surprised. "Thanks," he said quietly. "I'm Emma," she said, sitting on the grass nearby. "You're Daniel, right?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah, I just moved here." "It's a small town," Emma said with a smile. "You'll get used to it." Daniel didn't say much, but he felt a little better. Emma's voice was kind, and her smile made him feel welcome. That was the beginning of their story. 1 week later, something unexpected happened. It rained. In Rosewood, rain was rare during the summer, so most people were caught by surprise. Emma was walking home from school when the rain started. She didn't have an umbrella, so she ran to the nearest bus stop. Her hair was wet, and her shoes were muddy. When she reached the bus stop, she saw Daniel sitting there with his guitar case beside him. He was dry, holding a black umbrella in his hands. "Hi," Emma said, out of breath. "Hi," Daniel replied, smiling slightly. "You're soaked." Emma laughed. "I didn't expect the rain." Daniel moved his umbrella to cover her. "Here, you can stand closer." "Thanks," Emma said, grateful. She stood next to him, feeling a little shy. For a few minutes, they stood in silence, watching the rain fall. Then Daniel asked, "Do you like music?" "Yes," Emma said. "I listen to music all the time. Do you play?" Daniel nodded and opened his guitar case. "I can play something for you if you want." Emma's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Yes, I'd love that." Daniel took out his guitar and started playing a slow, beautiful tune. The music was soft and calming, like the sound of raindrops. Emma listened carefully, amazed by how talented he was. When he finished, Emma clapped her hands softly. "That was beautiful. Did you write it?" Daniel nodded. Yeah, I call it rainy days. I love it, Emma said. It's perfect for today. Daniel smiled. Thanks. The rain stopped after a while, and the sun came out again. Daniel closed his guitar case and stood up. Do you want to walk home together? He asked. Emma nodded. Sure. As they walked, they talked about music, books, and school. Emma learned that Daniel had moved to Rosewood because his dad got a new job. Daniel learned that Emma loved reading stories and writing in her journal. By the time they reached Emma's house, they were both smiling. See you tomorrow? Emma asked. Yeah, Daniel said. See you. From that day on, they started walking home together. As summer turned to autumn, Daniel and Emma began to spend more time together. After school, they often walked to the park near the center of Rosewood. The park was full of tall golden trees, and there was a small pond where ducks swam peacefully. It became their favorite place. One afternoon, Daniel sat on a bench with his guitar, strumming quietly. Emma sat next to him with a book in her hands. The sun was warm, and the air smelled of fallen leaves. Do you always bring your guitar? Emma asked, looking up from her book. Daniel nodded. It helps me relax. Playing music makes me forget about everything else. Emma smiled. You're really good. Do you write songs often? Sometimes, Daniel replied. I write when I feel something I can't say with words. Emma thought about that. That's beautiful. What about you? Daniel asked. You're always reading or writing. Do you write stories? Emma blushed a little. Yes, I write short stories in my journal, but they're not very good. I'd like to read one someday, Daniel said. Emma shook her head quickly. No way, they're private. Daniel laughed softly. Okay, I won't ask again, but I'm sure they're better than you think. Emma smiled, feeling happy. She liked how Daniel listened to her. He never made her feel silly or small. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew across the park. Emma's book slipped from her hands and fell to the ground. Pages fluttered as the book landed near the pond. Oh no! Emma cried, running after it. Daniel stood up quickly. I'll get it! Before Emma could stop him, Daniel ran toward the book. It had fallen near the edge of the pond, just inches from the water. Daniel bent down, grabbed the book, and slipped slightly on the muddy grass. Emma gasped. Are you okay? Daniel stood up, holding the book high. His shoes were covered in mud, and his face was red, but he was laughing. I saved it! Emma started laughing too. You didn't have to do that. Daniel handed her the book, smiling. A hero always saves the day. You're crazy, Emma said, still laughing. But thank you. They walked back to the bench, Daniel's shoes making squishy sounds with every step. Emma couldn't stop giggling, and Daniel felt proud that he had made her laugh. As the sun began to set, the sky turned orange and pink. Daniel played a soft melody on his guitar, and Emma listened quietly. Do you ever miss your old home? Emma asked after a while. Daniel paused, his fingers still on the guitar strings. Sometimes. I had friends there. Moving here felt like starting over. I get that, Emma said, but you're not alone anymore. Daniel looked at her and smiled. No, I'm not. They sat there in silence, watching the sun disappear behind the trees. The park felt peaceful, like it was just theirs. Ready to go home? Daniel asked softly. Emma nodded. Yeah. As they walked out of the park, Emma thought about how much things had changed since Daniel arrived. She didn't know why, but being around him made her feel happy. And for Daniel, walking beside Emma felt like the first time he truly belonged somewhere. One morning, an announcement came over the school speaker. Attention, students! The annual talent show will be held next Friday. Sign up in the office if you want to perform. During lunch, Emma and Daniel sat together under their favorite tree. Daniel was strumming his guitar, and Emma was writing in her journal. Are you going to sign up for the talent show? Emma asked. Daniel stopped playing. I don't know. I've never performed in front of people before. But you're so good, Emma said. Everyone would love to hear you play. Daniel shrugged. What if I mess up? You won't, Emma said confidently. I'll be there to cheer for you. Daniel looked at her, his face thoughtful. You really think I should do it? Yes, Emma said firmly. Your music deserves to be heard. The next day, Daniel signed up for the talent show. Emma was so excited that she told all her friends. You have to come, she said. Daniel's going to play the guitar. That week, Daniel practiced every day after school. He spent hours working on a new song, trying to make it perfect. Emma listened to him play and gave him words of encouragement. You're ready, Emma said the day before the show. It sounds amazing. Daniel smiled nervously. Thanks, Emma. I couldn't do this without you. On the night of the talent show, the school auditorium was full of students, teachers, and parents. The stage was lit with bright lights, and the sound of people talking filled the room. Emma sat in the front row, saving a seat for Daniel's family. She felt excited and nervous at the same time. When it was Daniel's turn, he walked onto the stage, holding his guitar. The room went quiet. Daniel looked out at the crowd and spotted Emma. She smiled and gave him a small thumbs up. Taking a deep breath, Daniel sat down on the stool and started playing. The room filled with the soft, beautiful sound of his guitar. It was a song no one had heard before, one he had written for Emma. The music was gentle, like a whisper, but it carried so much feeling. People listened carefully, amazed by how beautiful it was. When Daniel finished, the room erupted in applause. People stood up, clapping and cheering. Emma's eyes were shining with tears. She clapped loudly, feeling proud of her friend. Daniel stood up, smiling. He looked at Emma and mouthed the words, "Thank you." That night, as they walked home together, Emma said, "You were amazing." Daniel smiled shyly. "I was nervous, but seeing you there helped." "You're a star now," Emma teased. "Everyone's going to talk about your music." Daniel laughed. "I don't care about that. I just wanted you to hear it." Emma felt her heart skip a beat. "Me?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah. You're the reason I feel brave enough to play." Emma didn't know what to say. She smiled softly and looked up at the stars. That night, everything felt a little more magical. The day after the talent show, Daniel was the talk of the school. Students stopped him in the hallway to say how much they loved his performance. Some even asked him if he would play another song for them. Emma watched all of this with a smile. She knew how hard Daniel had worked, and she was proud of him, but Daniel didn't care about the attention from others. He cared about what Emma thought. After school, Daniel and Emma walked to the park as usual. Daniel carried his guitar, and Emma brought her journal. The air was cool, and the leaves crunched under their feet as they walked. "Did you hear everyone talking about you today?" Emma asked. Daniel nodded. "Yeah, but it's strange. I don't really like being the center of attention." "You deserve it," Emma said. "Your song was amazing." Daniel looked at her thoughtfully. "I wrote it for you, you know." Emma stopped walking. "For me?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah? You've been my friend since I moved here. You listened to me play when no one else did. I wanted to write something that said thank you." Emma felt her cheeks turn red. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Daniel replied, smiling. "Just keep being you." They sat on their favorite bench by the pond. Emma opened her journal and started writing. Daniel watched her for a moment. "What are you writing?" he asked. Emma hesitated. "Just a story." "About what?" Daniel pressed. Emma sighed and smiled. "It's about a boy who plays the guitar and a girl who loves stories. They meet one day and they become friends. It's simple." Daniel's eyes lit up. "That sounds familiar." Emma laughed. "Maybe it is." Daniel strummed his guitar quietly. "You should share your stories someday, Emma. You're really talented." "I don't know," Emma said, looking down. "It's scary. What if people don't like them?" Daniel stopped playing. "I used to feel the same way about my music, but you told me to be brave, remember? You should be brave too." Emma looked at him and smiled. "Maybe someday. But for now, I'll keep writing just for myself." Daniel nodded. "Okay, but I hope I get to read one of your stories first." They stayed in the park until the sun began to set. Daniel played his guitar, and Emma wrote in her journal. The world felt peaceful, like it belonged just to them. The next week, something unexpected happened. Emma and Daniel had their first argument. It started on a Monday afternoon. Emma had been busy with a school project, so she didn't walk to the park with Daniel like she usually did. Daniel sat under the tree alone, strumming his guitar and waiting. When Emma finally arrived, she looked tired and frustrated. "Sorry I'm late," she said. "I had to finish my history project." "It's fine," Daniel said, but his voice sounded cold. Emma frowned. "Are you okay?" Daniel shrugged. "I don't know. I just thought—" "I don't know. You didn't tell me you were busy." Emma sat down next to him. "I didn't think I had to. It was just one day." Daniel didn't say anything. He kept strumming his guitar, avoiding her eyes. Emma sighed. "Are you mad at me?" "No," Daniel said quickly, but his face said something different. Emma stood up. "Daniel, I don't understand. Why are you acting like this?" Daniel finally looked at her. "I guess. I just thought we were friends. But it feels like I'm the only one who cares sometimes." Emma's face fell. "That's not fair. Of course I care." "Then why didn't you say anything?" Daniel asked. Emma felt tears in her eyes. "Because I didn't think I needed to explain myself. I'm sorry I was busy. I'm sorry I didn't come here right away." Daniel saw the hurt in her eyes and realized he had gone too far. He put his guitar down and stood up. "Emma, wait. I didn't mean to upset you." But Emma shook her head. "Maybe I'll see you tomorrow," she said quietly. Then she turned and walked away. Daniel watched her leave, feeling terrible. He sat back down on the bench, his heart heavy. He had hurt his best friend, and he didn't know how to fix it. That night, Daniel sat in his room with his guitar. He tried to play a song, but nothing sounded right. He kept thinking about Emma and the look on her face when she walked away. She was right, he said to himself. I overreacted. The next day, Daniel waited for Emma at the bus stop, but she didn't come. He felt even worse. He missed her. On Wednesday, Daniel decided he couldn't wait any longer. After school, he walked to Emma's house with his guitar. He knocked on the door nervously, hoping she would answer. Emma's mom opened the door. Oh, hello, Daniel. Emma's in her room. Would you like to see her? Yes, please, Daniel said politely. Emma's mom smiled and called upstairs. Emma, Daniel's here to see you. A moment later, Emma came to the door. She looked surprised to see him. Hi, she said softly. Hi, Daniel said, shifting his guitar nervously. Can I talk to you? Emma nodded and stepped outside. They sat on the porch steps together. I'm sorry, Daniel said. I was wrong to get upset with you. I don't know why I acted like that. Emma looked at him for a moment. You really hurt my feelings, Daniel. I know, Daniel said. I was selfish. You're my best friend, and I shouldn't have made you feel bad. I guess I missed you. Emma's face softened. I missed you too. Daniel smiled a little. I wrote you something. Can I play it for you? Emma nodded. Daniel took out his guitar and started playing a soft melody. It was simple but sweet, and Emma knew it was his way of saying sorry. When he finished, Emma smiled. That was beautiful. It's called Forgive Me, Daniel said. Emma laughed softly. Okay, I forgive you, Daniel grinned. Thank you. They sat together on the steps, watching the sun set in the distance. The air was cool, and everything felt right again. I promise I'll never make you feel like that again, Daniel said quietly. Emma nodded. And I promise I'll always tell you when I'm busy. Deal? Deal, Daniel said, smiling. Their friendship was stronger than ever. The seasons changed quickly in Rosewood, and winter arrived with a blanket of soft white snow. The town looked like something from a postcard. Rooftops were dusted with snow, and the trees sparkled with frost. Everyone was excited for the Winter Festival, the biggest event of the season. The festival was held every year in the town square. There were bright lights, food stalls, music, and a huge Christmas tree decorated with colorful ornaments. People came from all over Rosewood to celebrate. Are you going to the festival? Emma asked Daniel one afternoon as they walked home. Yeah, Daniel said, smiling. My mom and dad are making me go, but it sounds fun. Are you going? Emma nodded. Of course. I love the Winter Festival. It's my favorite day of the year. Then I'll see you there, Daniel said. The night of the festival was magical. The town square was lit up with hundreds of twinkling lights, and the air smelled of hot chocolate and roasted chestnuts. Children ran around laughing, and families took pictures by the Christmas tree. Emma wore a red coat and a scarf that her grandmother had knitted. She looked around the square, searching for Daniel. Finally, she spotted him near a food stall. He was holding a cup of hot chocolate and wearing a warm green jacket. Daniel! Emma called, waving. Daniel turned and smiled when he saw her. Hey, Emma! They met in the middle of the square. This place looks amazing, Daniel said, looking around. It does, Emma agreed. Have you tried the hot chocolate? It's the best. Daniel held up his cup. I already did. Want one? Yes, please, Emma said. Daniel laughed and bought her a cup. As they sipped their drinks, the band on stage started playing Christmas music. People gathered around, singing and clapping along. Come on, Emma said, grabbing Daniel's hand. Let's go closer. They stood near the stage, watching the band play. Daniel noticed Emma singing along softly. Her face lit up with happiness. He smiled to himself, feeling warm despite the cold. When the music ended, the mayor of Rosewood stepped onto the stage. It's time to light the Christmas tree, he announced. Everyone cheered as the mayor flipped a switch. The giant Christmas tree lit up with thousands of sparkling lights. Emma gasped, her eyes wide. It's beautiful, she whispered. Daniel looked at the tree, then at Emma. Yeah, it really is, he said softly. They spent the rest of the evening walking around the festival. Daniel won a stuffed bear at a game booth and gave it to Emma. For you, he said with a smile. Emma hugged the bear tightly. Thank you, Daniel. I'll keep it forever. As the night ended, snow began to fall again. Emma and Daniel walked home together, their footsteps crunching in the snow. This was the best winter festival ever, Emma said. Yeah, Daniel agreed. It really was. Emma looked at him and smiled. I'm glad you're my friend, Daniel. Daniel smiled back. Me too, Emma. As the new year began, Emma noticed something different about Daniel. He seemed quieter than usual, like something was on his mind. Is everything okay? Emma asked one afternoon. They were sitting under their favorite tree in the park. Daniel hesitated, looking down at his guitar. Yeah, I'm fine. Emma frowned. Daniel, I know you. You're not fine. What's wrong? Daniel sighed and put his guitar down. My dad got a new job, in another town. We might have to move again. Emma's heart sank. What? When? In a few months, Daniel said softly. Nothing's decided yet, but it's possible. Emma felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. But you just got here, she said quietly. I know, Daniel replied. I don't want to leave. I finally feel like I belong here. Emma looked away, trying not to cry. I don't want you to leave either. There was a long silence between them. Finally, Daniel spoke. Emma, I need to tell you something. What? She whispered. Daniel looked at her, his face serious. You're my best friend, but you're more than that to me. I think I like you, Emma. Emma's heart raced. You do? Daniel nodded. Yeah. I didn't know how to say it before, but it's true. You're the best part of my life here. Emma felt tears in her eyes, but this time, they were happy tears. I like you too, Daniel, she said softly. Daniel smiled, and for the first time in weeks, he felt hopeful. I'm glad I told you, he said. They sat together in the park as the sun began to set. The thought of Daniel leaving still hurt, but for now, they were happy. The weeks passed quickly, and soon it was spring. Daniel's family had decided to move, and the day of their departure was getting closer. On their last evening together, Daniel and Emma met in the park one final time. The sky was clear, and the stars shone brightly above them. "I can't believe you're leaving tomorrow," Emma said quietly. "I know," Daniel replied. "I wish I could stay." Emma looked at him, tears in her eyes. "Will you forget about me?" Daniel shook his head. "Never. You're my best friend, Emma. And I'll write to you every week, I promise." Emma smiled sadly. "I'll write to you too." Daniel took his guitar and played a song he had written just for her. The melody was soft and beautiful, like a goodbye and a promise all at once. When he finished, he looked at Emma. "This is for you, so you'll always remember me." Emma wiped away a tear. "I'll never forget you, Daniel." They sat under the stars, talking and laughing like they always did. For a little while, it felt like nothing had changed. As the night grew late, Daniel stood up. "I should go. My parents will be waiting." Emma stood too, her heart breaking. "Goodbye, Daniel." Daniel smiled softly. "It's not goodbye. It's see you later." Emma nodded, holding back tears. "See you later." Daniel turned and walked away, his guitar on his back. Emma watched him until he disappeared into the distance. The next day, Daniel's family left Rosewood. The town felt quieter without him, but Emma kept her promise. She wrote to him every week, and Daniel wrote back. Years later, Emma sat on the same park bench with Daniel's old songbook in her hands. The sun was setting, and the world felt peaceful. One day, she knew they would see each other again, and when they did, it would be like no time had passed at all.